Well, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am good. How are you?
Yes, good.
On
Back
this,
for another week.
we are. It's been a wet week this week.
Oh, it's been horrible weather,
I
hasn't
thought
it?
the weather would have fined up by today, but nah, it's like yesterday was even more miserable, and today's
Yeah,
not looking great.
no, but
It
I suppose it is winter officially
is
now.
winter. Oh yeah, that harsh reality.
I
I've still been
know,
getting
it's
out and doing my
horrible.
daily walks though, rain,
Yeah,
hail
you've
or
been doing
shine.
really well.
Yeah, got to just get it done sometimes.
Mm, I could take a leaf out of your book for sure.
Well, you have been recovering from COVID. Are you back up to 100% VO2 max now, or
I don't know. I'll let you
okay?
know. Jury's out still.
All right, cool. We'll take that as a no.
I'm getting there. It's all good.
Yeah.
Steps in the right direction.
Excellent. Well, to
So,
kick
do we
things
have another
off,
installment?
oh, do I have another installment? Do I ever?
Yes.
I thought I'd talk. I thought I'd speak to cabinet makers today.
Ooh,
So
yes.
what we've been the glue in the glue lamb, we've been the mortar in the brick wall, we've been the silicon in the tile join, we've been the earth in the
Mhm.
wire,
Yes.
the rehow in your pipe work. Today we are the pilot hole in your cabinets.
Very good. Very good.
Oh,
Uh,
geez. I think of all of these when I'm in the shower, by the way. I sit down looking around my shower. I'm like, grout, silicon, yep. I don't know where I got
shower
pilot hole
thoughts.
from in the shower, but whatever.
Oh, van like cabinets in your ensuite, surely.
I do need a mirrored cabinet in my ensuite, so
Yeah,
maybe that's where that one came about.
maybe.
So, what are we talking about today?
Well, what's been happening with you lately, Bron?
No, the last couple of weeks, clients always come in waves. And so I get a wave of, new clients come in, and then that wave of clients then goes through concept design stage. And then we're now at a point where a majority of that initial wave has now gone into selection stage, or what I like to call design development.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the new wave of clients comes in as well behind that. So you kind of got projects all over the place. But yeah, definitely a lot of sort of supplier visits in the last couple of weeks, and um,
Yeah.
or the fun stuff. It is a fun part of the journey for myself and for the homeowners. I also walk
Yes.
away from these sometimes 3-4 hour meetings, half days, full days, and I'm like, oh, I just need to sit down. It's a lot. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of explaining. It's a lot of interactions and decision making. So yeah,
Yeah.
happy to get home at the end of those days and just kick back.
I got to say, selections is definitely my favorite part of the build journey as well.
Mm,
Like you say, I think at the design stage when you're first getting started, it's really exciting, and
mm,
then the process kind of keeps going in the background, and you don't really have too much input as an owner, and then it
mm.
gets to sort of selection stage, and you're like, right, this is it. This is where I'm going to choose all the amazing things that are going to make up part of my build, and it's such a good feeling and such a good
It's definitely
meeting.
in a
Yeah.
process that's like peaks and troughs. It's definitely a peak in the process.
Yes.
It can very quickly become a trough though.
Right.
And this is what I find. Sorry, I'm just like chewing my hair here. Let me just get that out of my face. uh, it can it doesn't have to be. When I do my client led, like when I do designer led selections with my clients, we have a process in place to make sure that we work through it methodically and that my
Yeah.
clients are getting everything they need to, um, choose things efficiently, but not at the same time not be pushed into decisions and not feel rushed.
Yeah.
Every homeowner is different and has different timelines and absorbs information differently as well. So it's about
Mm.
sort of working with the client as to how they process and how quickly they either want to or need to make decisions.
Yes.
And so our process sort of is flexible enough to accommodate that, but we still have a pretty distinct process in place that needs to be followed to make sure everything everything goes smoothly, but probably more so that everything gets covered and nothing is missed. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
where
important.
a peak can become a trough very quickly, is
Yeah.
if maybe um, people are taking on this part of the process by themselves,
Yeah,
or
right.
they're working with a builder who doesn't have that process in place, or the quite often a builder, definitely with the builders that I work for now, before I came along, they didn't have a process in place around this time of the build, and they were letting the clients go and do their own selections, which is great for a handful of items, but there was a lot of things being missed, a lot of
Yeah.
detail being missed, and definitely not being documented, which then had repercussions later on out on site because the builders then wasting a lot of time chasing things up with the client, and the client's like, I didn't organize that. Okay, brakes on. We now need to stop construction and
Yeah.
find this missing element or do a selection. Sometimes it can then blow out and be like, okay, we need to do a reselection of 5 things because we didn't get one thing sorted out, and now that's out of stock, and now we need to go back and revisit everything. So
Oh,
it can unravel very quickly,
yeah.
which again, coming back to process, is very important to have in place. So that's what I've been doing with my clients the last
Oh,
couple of weeks,
it
is
sounds
running
like
them
a
through that
pretty full
process.
on. Yeah. So,
It can be.
when you're doing design development with your clients, Bron,
Mm,
what is the process like? If they were working with you and you were doing that with them and doing selections with them, like
mm.
what does that look like?
All right. Well, I guess first and foremost, coming into design development, we've already gone through concept design.
Yeah.
So what we're not doing is still umming and ahhing about whether that's going to go there, like that room's going to go there, or, the kitchen it may be this floor plan, but it might be that floor plan. Like all of that
Yeah.
has been already put to bed. We might be making tweaks, like how many drawers do we want? Do we want a skinny cupboard in here or a drawer? We might be fine tuning the configuration within the footprint,
Yeah.
but the layout, the footprint, the rooms, everything is in place. So our concept design is locked in. So it's
Yeah.
important to actually have that in place before you move into design development, because depending on what the layout is doing might lend itself to what you choose. So
Okay.
quite often a client will come to me at the very start. They're like, we have no idea what the kitchen's doing, but I want to use this tile. Okay,
Yes.
no problem. You really love that tile. We're going to use that tile as your splashback. And then depending on what, say, the bathroom or the kitchen layout's doing, might determine where that tile is best placed to get maximum visual effect with that tile, for
Okay.
example. So
Yeah.
it's really important that we have the concept design locked in so that we can
Yes.
categorically go, right, this tile is going to go here, therefore our vanity needs to be doing this, therefore our tapware needs to be doing this, therefore our appliances need to be this color, or, have that in place essentially. So that's first and foremost. Um, then, depending on the scope of the project
Yeah.
and how many rooms we're looking at, if it's a standalone kitchen or bathroom, or if it is a whole house that's got multiple bathrooms, a laundry, a kitchen, and then living areas, once we assess what the entire scope is, I then like to get a gauge of how much help the client does or doesn't need in certain areas.
Okay. So when it comes then to selections being done and everything's being finalized, what's the
Mm.
next step for you?
When everything's done and everything's finalised, there's been a bit of back and forth up until that point.
Yes.
So we've got to obviously, go do all of our selections with our suppliers. And then at that point, we might have only shortlisted a few things. It
Yeah.
may be, oh, we like that sink and we like that sink. We're not quite sure yet. We want to have a think about it, or we're considering a tap from here and a tap from that supplier. So let's just have a look at it all.
Yeah.
Before we get to making the final decision and documenting that all, which to answer your question would be the next step, is to document all of the selections. But
Yeah.
before we get to that, we need to obviously finalise the decisions, and that
Yes.
may involve going back and putting said selections into the 3D CAD program and seeing how
Ooh.
it actually looks. So part
Yeah.
of the process is we have both 2D and 3D drawings on the go all the time, right from concept stage. And so we can update those if people are really undecided do we go with this tile or that tile or this tap or this basin? We can put them into the drawing and they can actually visualize, okay, well, that's realistically what that's going to look like, the impact on that basin with then what that has to do to the mixer. If it's a wall basin mixer set, what that does to the mirrored cabinet above where all our height sitting of all of those items. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of sort of technical construction information that may need to be considered that go along with every selection.
Yes.
Once all that's nutted out, then we can begin documentation, which is
Yeah.
the important bit to really communicate that with everybody on site to make sure they're all doing it as per the client's expectation.
Well, it's pretty handy having the 3D visuals for the owners as well, because like you say, like, I mean, if they're undecided between a couple of different things, it's easy to make that decision using the 3D imagery rather than, obviously outlaying and trying to make a decision based on what you think might look okay. And then when it gets installed, people might be a little bit disappointed with that. But yeah, it's great to have that option for them to be able to make a really great informed decision and know exactly how amazing it's going to look when it is installed and they're looking at the final product in real life.
Yeah,
So that's really
absolutely.
cool. Yeah.
There's always it's really funny when if it's a couple, so husband and wife or partners or whatever,
Yeah.
there's typically one of them is quite visual.
Yes.
And it's like, yep, no problem, I can see it, blah, 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 blah. And then the other one is like, I don't even know what's going on right now. And so I'm like, it's okay, I'm going to put it into 3D so you can see how it looks. And then they see it and they're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So
it makes
it
a big difference.
It does. It speeds up the process. It gives, I think, the important thing is it gives them confidence moving forward. Because when you don't have that tool, you're then there going around in circles, going, the self-doubt kicks in and you think, oh, gosh, is this going to look okay? And then you're kind of nervous through the rest of the process. So that 3D really helps give them confidence and they then can continue to be excited and we can move to the next part of the process.
So the next part, obviously, you were saying before is documentation. The documentation side of things, like, obviously that would entail a lot of information, and that information is obviously good for the owners because they can see exactly what they've selected and what they're getting in their end product. But it's also quite handy to have as a builder as well, I would imagine.
I dare say that's the most important bit. So 100% the client signs off on everything. And so the way we set out our specification sheet, which should be for those watching the video, Cos is just like coughing
just
up
dying
in the
background.
She's muted herself on the microphone. So the clients will sign off on everything. So it's the way we lay it out with our spec sheet, which is should be industry standard and is quickly becoming industry standard, is that it's a very detailed document, from everything from a picture of the color that you've chosen or the picture of the tap that you've chosen, who's supplying it, where it's going in the build. So if it's a multi-room project or a new build, then it's in like bathroom 1 or ensuite or whatever. The actual product details, the manufacturer, then the brand, the name of the model, the code or model number, what color, obviously, dimensions, anything else that needs to be known on site that specifies that particular product, who's responsible for purchasing it, and if relevant, like let's say it's a color of a carcass or a benchtop color, it'll have a little code on it as well, which there's references back to the construction drawings. So if there's a lot of selections on the go, each of the trades can very clearly see, oh, okay, cabinet 1, it's going to be polar white in a sheen finish. So we try to make it as crystal clear as possible for everybody, for the client to understand, so they know, yes, that is categorically what I've chosen for that particular cupboard door. Yes, that's the tap I've chosen for that particular bathroom, and they can go through that and sign off on it. And then obviously the benefit of that out on site is it speeds things up because everybody can see, yes, that's exactly what's going here. It's very clear. There's no interpretation on site. It is what it is. There it is in documents, black and white. And then if something was to arise later, again, it gives you a reference to come back to and go, well, okay, Mr. Homeowner, this is what you've signed off on. Mr. Builder, or Mrs. Builder, this is what you've agreed to build. If there's a discrepancy, what's happened, and it's easier to it's not about blame. It's about, okay, who's responsible at what given time for
Yes.
this maybe going left field, and what do we need to do to rectify it. So yeah, it ticks a lot of boxes in that regard, and what I dare say is an incredibly important part of documentation that's required.
Absolutely
Without it, a
brilliant.
lot of things go pear-shaped. There's a lot of interpretation and therefore a mismatch in expectation, and then the client might end up getting something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
So yeah, very important.
Brilliant. So obviously, when you're doing the selections and going through that design development process with your clients, that's a document that you would then create and provide to everybody involved.
Yeah.
Have you come across people, owners, owners trying to do this on their own? And what happens when they do? If owners, haven't had, all I can imagine is if owners haven't had a whole lot of experience with building and they haven't had a whole lot of experience with putting selections together, that a lot of things might be missed, or a lot of things may not even be thought of in the whole process, which it's going to have a ripple effect surely through the whole build.
Yeah. Homeowners are their own worst enemy without realizing. And
Right.
I say that from a place of love. You don't know what you don't know. We bang on this all the time.
Yeah.
You know, selections is such a fun part of the process, and it's the thing that you see on all the TV shows, and it's the
Yeah.
thing that people look the most forward to. And so you don't want to take that away from the homeowner, is that excitement. And I know that when I do selections with my client, I'm not a designer that's like, I think you should have this and you should do this and do this. I'm very much let the client tell me what they're gravitating towards and what they like. I'll let them know if
Yeah.
they're about to make a hideous mistake, and I'll tell them that, and I'll let them know that I'll be very direct with them about that if I think something's going to be horribly disastrous. But other than
Yes.
that, it's their home, so it's what works for them, and you've got to give them that design license and not take the fun part out of it for them. But
Yeah.
there is that detail side to it, and there's also the construction element to it as well. So what happens is when a homeowner goes and does their own selections,
Yeah.
they might be choosing something. Let's say they're choosing their tapware for their bathroom vanity, and the builder may have done an allowance for a standard basin mixer.
Yeah.
So a basin mixer, pretty straightforward in store from a plumber's perspective. You can get a lot of different basin mixers at great price points, good quality, and the builder might allowed for one of those. Now the client's gone into the store and they've seen a beautiful wall basin mixer set. So that's basically when you've got a spout and a mixer that is mounted to the wall that sits over the
Yes.
basin underneath maybe a mirror or a mirrored cabinet.
Yeah.
Now, the install on something like that is a little bit more intricate for the plumber, and therefore your price to install that will increase slightly. But also, the price of the actual product itself, you can expect to be a little bit more expensive than the price of the basin mixer, because there's just
Yeah.
more components to it. So it's just a
Yes.
little slightly bit more pricey product. So the client will often look at the price of the product and go, well, can we justify spending that? Yes, we want it. Great. We've added an extra $150, $200. But then that's where their mindset stops. They have no idea that they've just selected something that actually is going to be a little bit more fiddly within store, and they've gone over the allowance that the builders originally set. Now, that's just one item. So if you're now doing that over literally 100 selection items, if it's a whole house project, you
Yeah.
can see how a couple $100 of product and then another couple $100 of labor, that's $400-$500 per item over X amount of items. And we wonder where the $20,000-$30,000 variations kick in from.
Yeah.
So the benefit of having a designer by your side during the selection process is that if we're there with you, we can
Yeah.
say to you, we're not there to go, stop, no, you can't have that. It's not about that, but we
Not
are
at
there
all.
to raise the awareness. So yes, you can certainly have this. Now, just so you're aware, this is going to go up, and exactly what I just explained. That would be the exact conversation I'd have with my client out in the supplier showroom,
Yeah.
to let them know, so at least they can be making informed decisions. And then when they get that increase in costs later on, they understand why. And I think a big
Yes.
part of variations or price jumps is if people have made the decision to select that and they understand why the cost has gone up, there isn't generally a problem because it's been their decision. But when
Yeah.
things go up and they don't understand why and they've made decisions without actually knowing what's happened in the background, that's when you get that well, just it's a breakdown of communication, and then
Yes.
there's no understanding to what's happened. And because the builders see it all the time, they're not necessarily, it's easy for us and us professionals to go, well, yeah, of course, what do you expect? You've just chosen all this extra stuff. Of course it's going to cost more. But in
Yes.
the homeowners' minds, they're like, but we added it up when we were in store and it was only going to be an extra $1,000 for these extra things. How's it all of a
Yeah.
sudden turned to three?
That's it.
So
That's
I
it.
think there's definitely merit in doing your selections with a designer, so that you can get that extra bit of information so that you can be making
Mm.
well-informed decisions. So that's one part of it to answer your question. It's going to be a
Yeah.
long-winded answer.
No, no. I mean, it is. It's one of those things where it's just multifaceted because then
Mm,
there is also a knock-on effect, which I'm sure you're going to talk about now,
mm.
which is how it affects the build on site as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, yes, I am going to talk about that. So we were speaking about, not knowing what you don't know and having a designer help you install.
Yeah.
The other part of that is that there's certain things that need to get selected that aren't your obvious things. So, for example, you've chosen your toilet, you've chosen your tapware, you've chosen your vanity, you've chosen your kitchen sink and your kitchen mixer, and all of those sort of real obvious things, appliances, etc. Now,
Yeah.
have you chosen or have you specified your floor waste? Have you specified what kind of shower screen fittings you want? Have you
Mm.
specified, what kind of glass you want on your shower screen?
Yeah.
All these things that maybe you kind of, or bench top. If we look at the bench top, for example, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I want an engineered stone bench top. Great. What edge profile do you want? What thickness do you want? Do
Yes.
you know that if you have a 20 mil thick bench top, but then want to upgrade it to a 40 mil bench thick bench, sorry, if you want to upgrade it to a 40 mil thick bench top, which
Yeah.
actually isn't a 40 mil slab, it's a 20 mil slab and a 20 mil slab with a mitered edge. So there's more labor component there, which you're now adding,
Yes.
which you may not be aware of, to get that 40 mil look. So again, it's like you can go, well, I want this, but what are you specifying from a cost perspective? Do you
Yes.
realize the repercussion of what you're actually asking for from a cost perspective? So again, if
Yeah.
you've got that professional, if you've got that designer working with you through the selections process, they can be giving you this information. So again, you can be making informed decisions. So
Yeah.
then to come back to then the repercussion of that on site, let's say you've done your selections by yourself, and let's continue going with this bench top example because it's a great one.
Yeah.
You have said to the builder, okay, I want to have a 40 mil thick bench top. I want to use this stone, and I've chosen one with a marble vein through it. And
Yeah.
then your builder does his final round of costing. This is before we've even got to site, by the way. Builder does his final round of costing, and all of a sudden your cabinetry cost has gone up by, like, I don't know, let's call it $10,000. And you're like, how? Where did this extra $10,000 come from?
Yeah.
Well, the builder only included standard range stone, and most of the stone companies have 5 tiers. And so you've chosen one with a beautiful marble vein through it, which is going to look absolutely incredible. But guess what?
Yeah.
That's in bracket number 5.
Yep.
So you've now just added another 8 grand for your stone, and you've now
Ouch.
want 40 mil. You want a 40 mil edge profile, and not just
Yeah.
the 20 mil that this stone comes in. And so you've now added an extra labor component to that too, which is quite intricate, mitering those edges all the way around. So that's the
Yeah.
other couple of grand. So I mean, I'm loosely plucking figures at the moment here, but you can see how just that one decision,
Yes.
uneducated, has now cost you $10,000, which you still may be okay with, but you might not. And you might have done something completely different had you have had that information in the front end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's continue rolling with the bench top and go to site. Okay, you've had the shock. You're happy to pay for the 10 grand. No worries. Yeah, we'll swallow that one. It's what we want. Let's go to site. Let's have our marble 40 mil bench top. Now we're
Yep.
out on site. But because you did your selections yourself and didn't have professional help with you, you've not specified whether you want your sink top mount or under mount. And so it's left to interpretation, and the cabinet maker or stone people now go, oh, well, majority of people do it under mount, so we're going to do it under mount. So this is how big we need to cut the hole.
Yep.
But you really want a top mount because you want to be able to, see the rim of the sink or whatever. For whatever reason, you want a top mount.
Yep.
But you don't catch it until you're now out on site. The stone's been cut, it's been paid for, it's on site, it's installed, it's been adhered to the cabinetry. Your splashback's now gone in, so that's now on top of it as well. All the PowerPoint's been cut in your splashback. Your appliances have been installed. Your sink goes in, and you go, hang on, that's under mount. We want a top mount. Ooh,
Ouch. Yeah.
ouch. Not only now are we getting, we either have to live with it, and then are you going to resent it for the rest of the time that you're in the house? Or to replace that, the sink has to come out, the appliances have to come out, the splashback has to come off, or the electrical fittings that got put in have to come out. I mean, you might not have got that far, but I'm kind of going worst case here.
Yes.
The stone then needs to be pulled off, hopefully without damaging the carcasses that it's been adhered to. And then they've got to wait for the stone to be resupplied, recut to scope. By the way, you're paying for all of this. And you're adding how many weeks? Like maybe
that's it.
Up to 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how available your stone is, from one little thing that was missed that a professional would have picked up.
Yeah. It's just about knowledge, isn't it? And when you've got somebody that has access to that level of knowledge and know-how and has been there and done all of those things and been involved in that process before, you really become worth your weight in gold.
You do. And can I just add a little disclaimer here? Do you know how I know about the undermount, overmount situation?
Go on.
I fucked that up.
Oh, boy.
I've made that mistake on a project in my earlier design days, and I didn't specify that, and it went in wrong. And the builder that I worked for had to do an insurance claim to fix that. And that was me working in the industry, learning. So, that it basically just doubles down on what you said. It is experience, and it's only after many, many years in the industry of making the mistakes and learning and having the exposure and going through that yourself that you know those things. So a homeowner, if they've not done it before, definitely isn't going to be aware of these things. And that's just one example out of so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely worth having someone with your level of experience, Bron, in your corner. It makes the process run a whole lot smoother, and it just ensures that you're not going to have any surprises down the track that, will leave you horrified and possibly keep you up at night with nightmares. Oh, my God.
Yeah. We've spoken before about the emotional stress that a renovation project can have. And I think there's enough weight to put on a homeowner on making the right decisions around colours and that kind of thing, like already.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realise until they're in the thick of it just how many decisions there are to be made, and then it can become overwhelming very quickly. I don't think I've had any of my clients get to the end of that process. Most of them have turned around and actually said to me, we are so glad you have been here with us, because we don't know how we would have done all of this by ourselves. But at the start of the process, they were the ones that were umming and ahhing about, do we really need you for this design development stage? And it's only because I've insisted through experience and through knowing what it's like to not insist on having this as part of my service.
Yes.
I now am like, no, you will have me, because I end up doing more work afterwards anyway, which I'll then charge you more for. So we might as well throw it in now, and trust me, you're going to need the assistance. You're going to be grateful for the assistance at the end. And sure enough, without a doubt, they're all like, oh, we're so glad we had you through that part of the process. The other part of that as well, just quietly, is the time that it takes. When you have no process and you don't know and you're fudging your way through it, it can actually blow out your timelines. Now, if you've chosen something in March and you've chosen a tile that you just absolutely adore, and then you're still taking your time going through your process, and you take a good few months and you're now at June and you're ready to place all of your orders because you've selected everything, guess what? That tile's now discontinued from March. And we do see a turnover of stock like that, particularly with tiles, but definitely with other things as well. And so because that's now discontinued, it's not just a case, I mean, you're lucky if you can go in and pick something else that works with every single other selection you've made. But more often than not, there's a snowball effect. So if you're choosing that tile that you haven't locked in because you've taken so long, you're now reselecting your bench top, reselecting your cabinet colors, reselecting your vanity. You know, there's a huge knock-on effect potentially waiting for you. So you kind of want to be on the ball. You don't want to be rushing decisions because, of course, you want to get it right. So I don't mean rush, but certainly don't drag your feet. There's so many things out there to see. And the other thing I see a lot is that people come in and they're like, I choose this. And then they leave the store and they've made all their selections. And then I'll just go check what's in this tile shop. I'll just go check what's in it. They have to see all the options. They waste months on end. They come back. They always come back to the first thing they chose anyway.
Yes.
Like 98% of the time. And then again, if it's been months, you run the risk of that thing actually being discontinued.
Right.
Well, it's a risky game. Doing it by yourself.
Yeah. If somebody was insistent on doing their selections process themselves, do you have some top tips for them?
Don't do it. I am at the point where I'm almost like, I like to be accommodating and working with people as best as possible, because at the end of the day, it's their home, it's their journey. But if I know that it's going to be setting myself up to be copying it later on, you know, if it's going to be putting me in a position where I could be getting blamed for something later on because I've only half taken the responsibility and tried to be flexible, I just won't do it. I just won't do it. It doesn't do me any justice, and it certainly doesn't do the homeowner any justice, and it pisses off the builder as well, to be honest. So, you know, I just blatantly say, no, it's either all you or me. If you go with it's all you, then there's probably the most, oh gosh, there's so many tips. If you're a homeowner, Cos, give me something to go with here. If you're a homeowner, where would you be struggling the most?
There's so much.
There's so much. There is so much.
If I was doing renos, it'd probably be, I mean, to start with, it would be, where do I start? Which places do I go to look at? You know, what are the best suppliers to be looking at? There are so many places that you could start. There are so many places you could go.
Okay, that's a really good one.
Colours would be a big thing for me too.
Okay, so on your first point, one of my top tips would be, make sure you're finding out about warranty and service. There's a lot of things that you can purchase online. There's a lot of bargains. But this gold tap from that supplier doesn't equate to that gold tap from that supplier. And if you're looking at a $150 gold tap versus a $450 gold tap, there's going to be a reason for that price. Don't just think that you're getting a bargain, because that one probably has less than 12-month warranty on it, and the $450 tap probably has a 15-year warranty on it. And potentially the $450 gold tap is a PVD technology, which is almost like a chemical bonding to get that colour into that tapware so it lasts, it doesn't tarnish over time. Whereas a $150 gold tap might just be electroplated or even powder coated. You don't know. If you can't see it in reality, you don't know what you're going to get if you're purchasing online. In which case, you know, that could be scratched, tarnished within less than 12 months. And if you've not got the warranty, you're not going to be able to replace it. So, you know, it's knowing the difference between what you're buying. So if you're going to do selections yourself, take the time. But like I just said, if you're taking the time, don't take too much time, because you could be then putting yourself into another hole.
Right.
So that would probably be some really important advice.
Okay, cool. And then do you have any advice around colours?
Do you know what? The advice I give to, even when I do selections with clients, and I think it's a good one for everybody, is you can get really bogged down and overwhelmed with trying to choose the perfect colour or the perfect wood grain.
Yep.
Start off with asking yourself, how do I want the overall space to look and feel? So
Mhm.
I don't, instead of going, I want it to be this color and this color, or hang on, maybe I want it to be that color, and go, oh, what color do I want it to be? Stand back and go, right, I want it to be light and airy. I want it to have coastal vibes. I want it to have natural organic feel. Okay, well,
Mm.
instantly we've now narrowed it down. So you can start to funnel down by thinking about the overall look and feel that you want.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with taking photos, using photos that you've seen that you love for
Yeah.
inspiration and going, well, what have they used? What color is that? I really love that. What color is that? Can we pair it? Okay, what sort of shade of wood grain have they used? Okay, well, let's go with something like that. So you can
Mm.
take inspiration from stuff without ripping it off.
Yep.
And then that way, you can see that it works. So why not apply it to your project if you love it?
One thing that we also did is when we were doing our color selections, you can get color selection tabs that are about this big,
Yeah, your
but you can also
samples.
get the bigger versions. And if you put the bigger versions together, you get a much better idea of how the end product is going to look and how it's
You
going to work
definitely
together.
do. And if you can
Yeah.
get them in your house in the actual setting, because it's one thing to look at these samples when you're in a showroom that's
Yes.
massive, that's got all sorts of artificial light happening, but
Yep.
you want to see it in its actual environment where it's going to be. And
Yep.
the lighting might be completely different. So definitely that's something I always suggest is here's the samples, take them home.
Yes.
Um, a benefit of using a designer rather than doing it yourself is your designer has access to all of these samples. And like what you just said, Cos, instead of getting the tiny little swatch from the retail place or from Bunnings or wherever you go,
Yeah.
we do have access to bigger things. We can take you to the stonemasons where they've got the big slabs on display. You can see the whole thing in its entirety.
Yeah.
Um, they're the little perks of doing selections with a designer. Here's another one, by the way,
Yes.
price. We have
Yep.
got great relationships with our suppliers and we can negotiate pricing for you. So more often than not, if you do your selections with a designer, we'll be able to get you pricing that's less than retail. And
Fantastic. That's a
so there's,
massive,
but
massive
good
bonus.
quality,
Yeah.
stuff. And, I can't speak for every designer, but Bronze DC only uses reputable suppliers. Um,
Yep.
they're not necessarily the cheapest. They're not necessarily the most expensive either, but they guarantee us incredible service both in front end, but especially back of house as well, because things do happen.
Yeah.
People do change their minds and things sometimes do get damaged, and you need that service to be able to help you turn that around as quickly as possible, particularly when you're in the middle of construction. So that's all things that we
Yes.
take into account, which warrants paying that little bit more for, because you know that it's there as soon as you need it.
Brilliant. But number one tip
Mhm.
would be don't do selections by yourself.
Yeah. My number one tip for doing selections by yourself is don't do selections by yourself. At least have someone as a sounding board.
Yep.
Look, I totally appreciate and understand that it's your house. There's a great sense of pride and achievement when you get to choose
Yes.
all of your things. And I would never take that away from someone, even when I am doing selections with them, because I completely understand that. You don't want to take
Yeah.
the fun out of it for them. You just
No.
want to be there as a sounding board and give them the information as they go so they can be making informed decisions.
Yes.
Not every designer's
Absolutely.
like that. I think some designers are quite persistent and insistent on what they're choosing, and it might strip that away from the client a little bit. So I guess then that comes back to finding a designer that's going to be a good fit for you,
Yeah.
and give you that flexibility. But that's a whole other conversation. Yeah,
Well, fantastic. Best part of building and renovating, I say,
I
selection
think
side of
so.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's your opportunity to put your personality into your home. And so
Yeah.
when I talk about, thinking about how you want the room or space to look and feel, how do you want to be feeling in that space? Is this a space I want to be nice and, if it's a bathroom, I want this to be a tranquil space where I can
Yes.
escape, even if it's only 2 minutes. All the busy mums out there, like, give me 2 minutes.
Yeah.
um, and do I want it to be tranquil and relaxing, or do I want to
Yeah.
incite energy and excitement into my living area, or whatever it is? It's your home, so think about how you want to be feeling in the space, and
Yes.
therefore how you want it to look and feel, and then that will naturally funnel you down to a set of palettes or materials or whatever it is that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'd love to hear from you guys too. If you've been
Mm,
through the selections process, if you've been guided through that process, or you haven't been guided through that process, how did you find it?
yeah.
Drop us a line and let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, what tips would you give to people if you are someone that's gone and done selections for yourself? What are your top do's and don'ts? What
Yeah.
had you wished you'd done differently? And what did you like about having that independence of doing it by yourself? And likewise, if you've done selections with a designer, what were the benefits for you, and what were your biggest takeaways from that?
Yeah. Slide into our DMs. We'd love to have a chat.
Oh, I love the old slippery DMs. Awesome.
Well, we'll see you
Cool.
back next time.
Yes, we will. See you later, tools.
Bye, tools.